Eagle FM, and this is where the main stories is happening. This is where we will unpack everything and where the eagle will leave the nest and soar to greater heights.
Eagle FM, the eye.
To our valued listeners and all Namibians, we are living in unprecedented times which have seen some extraordinary steps being taken, some of which have suspended the most basic of human rights.
And this is because for the first time ever since our country won its independence, we have been hit by a dangerous virus, which is a threat to our livelihoods, the COVID-19.
The situation calls for us not to panic, but to work together and eradicate the spread of the virus. At Eagle FM, we urge you to always wash your hands with soap or use hand sanitizers,
limit or avoid travel and respect our laws and obey authority.
We have the answer, and we will fight this the Namibian way. As Namibians, together as one Namibia, one nation. Let's stand together against COVID-19.
All right, it's a good afternoon to you and welcome to the Home Run. This is a show that takes you home. It escorts you home and helps you while you are packing your bag and clearing your table and preparing for the next day in terms of work. And at the same time, getting yourself into a car or a cab. This time, in our modern language, we call it a cab. When you are getting into a cab, this is a show that helps you. It keeps you company. It helps you do that. And we have topical issues that we cover on this show. And of course, Wanda has been talking yesterday to Mike Mshelelo, and the other time, I think it was a day before, he was talking to the gentleman from Ndongalinena on the green scheme. And today we are talking to, we will be having a spokesperson in the Ministry of Mines and Energy. Mines and Energy, coming to talk to us on the issue of fuel, the fuel increase. What does it mean to consumers? And you tend to wonder when we say consumers of oil. We consume oil through our cars, and we are third-party consumers. Maybe the car owners are first-hand or second-hand or second-party. But the commuters who use taxi every day or buses, they might also have to dig deeper into their pockets as far as the prices, fuel prices, or the taxi and bus fares are concerned. Now, while you were listening, of course, to On the Radar, when my colleague Justicia had a very intensive coverage on this issue of fuel. So we are just going to take a listen. We are just going to take a listen to that, and we just want to take a listen to what Pendapara Nakasingo has to say, and what Kanjengo is going to say. And by that time, I think our guest will be coming in, and we'll be able to introduce him officially when he comes. And don't forget, we'll also have an Agribank We will also have an interview later on. I think you have seen that on our social media page of Mr. Hank Saisai. Around 5, we'll have an interview with him. Right, we shall go for a short break, and we'll come back. Just continue to listen to Eagle FM.
To our valued listeners and all Namibians, we are living in unprecedented times which have seen some extraordinary steps being taken, some of which have suspended the most basic of human rights.
And this is because for the first time ever since our country won its independence, we have been hit by a dangerous virus, which is a threat to our livelihoods, the COVID-19.
The situation calls for us not to panic, but to work together and eradicate the spread of the virus. At Eagle FM, we urge you to always wash your hands with soap or use hand sanitizers,
limit or avoid travel, and respect our laws and obey authority.
We have the answer, and we will fight this the Namibian way. As Namibians, together as one Namibia, one nation. Let's stand together against COVID-19.
Speak your mind while respecting the opinions of others.
How can you say Namibia was brought on a silver platter when so many people were massacred?
No, that's not what I mean. I mean on the silver platter.
In terms of the infrastructure.
Of the infrastructure. You know, there were schools, there were roads, there were...
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
To grab that victory against Ivory Coast will be a big one for us. It will be the first.
For social position to raise a child. What does that mean? Baby dumping.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
The commander say hold fire, they hold fire. When the commander says fire, they fire. You know, they are trained to kill. We are trained to arrest people and bring them before court.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
That's why some of us wear unbranded clothes. Because it's about selling their product.
So talk on Eagle FM. Eagle FM, the eye. Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
not fraud.
To our valued listeners and all Namibians, we are living in unprecedented times which have seen some extraordinary steps being taken, some of which have suspended the most basic of human rights.
And this is because for the first time ever since our country won its independence, we have been hit by a dangerous virus, which is a threat to our livelihoods, the COVID-19.
The situation calls for us not to panic, but to work together and eradicate the spread of the virus. At Eagle FM, we urge you to always wash your hands with soap or use hand sanitizers,
limit or avoid travel, and respect our laws and obey authority.
We have the answer, and we will fight this the Namibian way. As Namibians, together as one Namibia, one nation. Let's stand together against COVID-19.
All right. Welcome back. I wanted to take you through to Pendapara Nagasingo, but I think we'll do it later. I'm joined by Simon Andreas from the Ministry of Mines and Energy. He is a spokesperson there. Good afternoon, Simon.
Hello, good afternoon, Franz. How are you?
Good.
Great.
Yes, please welcome and feel free here. This is Eagle FM, and we just want to discuss the issue of fuel, the increase of fuel. Why do we have increase of fuel every year? Like I think this year, within the quarter of 6 months, we've increased 3 times or 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, Mr. Franz, as you know it, the Ministry of Mines and Energy is the sole mandate, the sole entity that is allowed to regulate fuel prices in the country. And by doing so, we do it so that we could keep a balance, so that you know that importers, this importer won't sell at whatever price he or she wants to sell. And so we regulate mostly petrol and diesel. These are the fuel products that we import that we regulate. We don't regulate the paraffins, the Jet A fuel, the A1, the mazout, and all these others. We don't. But to come back to your question, why we've been having fuel increases, is because of the under recoveries that we record. The under recoveries, when I say under recoveries, we're basically talking about the losses that we incur. For example, when we buy fuel, the government itself don't buy fuel, but the fuel wholesalers, the bulk importers, they're the ones who buy fuel. These are your engines, your Totals, your Vivo, etc. So when they buy fuel, the amount at which you find, like now we have what we call the pump price, right? That's the price at which fuel is sold in Valfus. If you look at that pump price and you look at the price at which they are buying the fuel, and also including the transport costs, etc., once you put all these calculations together and you find that there's a disparity, there's a gap, these are losses. So these losses, obviously, somewhere, somehow, we need to get them back. So they are built into the fuel price, and so that they may be recovered either the next month. So under recoveries are the main cause why we have fuel increases. And also to say is, once we have over recoveries, it means that we have a gain, for example. So then once we have recorded over recoveries, there's no need for us to actually put a change or to increase fuel prices. But we only do that when we have picked up losses or some under recoveries.
So in this case, what losses have you picked up?
The losses are basically what I've just mentioned. The amount, for example, when we did our calculations, we actually noticed and saw that we had made losses. For example, we had bought for more expensive. So you can't buy for more expensive and come sell it here at a lower price. Yeah, you are going to lose out.
Now, look, the people don't understand. They think that this is government on making for the increase of fuel. Apart from your losses, what seems to be the causes of the overall high cost of fuel, or the spike into prices of fuel?
There are mainly always three components that we look at, or three aspects. Number one is obviously always the exchange rate. You need to understand that fuel is bought at an international currency, which is US dollars, or the famous one that they call the petrodollar. So obviously, when the US dollar goes up, when it gains value, and then that means that the Namibian dollar then automatically depreciates. It loses value against the US dollar. That also plays a role. It also contributes as well. The other thing is, like I said, the cost to bring that fuel from wherever it is being bought or being produced to our shores. That transport cost, the logistical cost, that also plays a role as well, because you would have to pay for it. And then obviously the other is now the per barrel prices. So which means that the producers, they have their own. They decide at what price they want to sell. So we don't have any bearing on that. We can't dictate necessarily how much they should sell either their crude or the refined products for. So we are the price taker. We just take whatever price they give us.
Now, where do you get your oil? If somebody has to ask you, where does Namibia get their oil in terms of export?
Namibia,
they import it from where?
Look, like I said, there's not one particular place where we get fuel from. The producers across the globe there are quite many. Russia is one of them. The UAE is one of them. That's now Qatar, Dubai, and there's also Venezuela is one of them. Singapore is one of them. So wherever you can find oil for a good price, for a cheap price, that's where you go. But most of it, I think the bulk of it comes from Russia and from the UAE.
All right, now let's focus on what is going on quickly, because we just want to understand the Saudi facility. I'm sure maybe you don't buy from Saudi Arabia, but we just want to find out when their facility has been hit with whatever it was. Does that have a direct impact on Namibian fuel?
I could say both direct and also indirect. Again, it all depends. Where are you? You're going to buy where you find that it is affordable for me to buy. Mainly, the one that I would say has got a huge bearing on the fuel prices or the cost or whatnot is the Russia-Ukraine issue. That debacle there along Eastern Europe is one that puts us in a very difficult position because you need to understand Russia is the second largest producer after the Saudis. And which means that if they, for example, are not producing at the level that they should be producing, then that means that they automatically becomes there is a deficit in the production numbers. So obviously those numbers somehow needs to be made up by someone. But now the question is who's going to make up for those? And you find that you cannot put any of the other producers under pressure and say, yeah, you need to produce more. They will say, no, look, we're only going to produce whatever we can, and then we're only going to sell it for whatever price we want to sell it. So we can't dictate. And there you already begin to see that there's a gap because whenever there's a disparity between the production and then the demand, meaning that now these guys are producing at a very lower rate, they're producing minimal, and then you find that the demand is quite high. So, but these guys are going to say, look, we're not going to push ourselves so that we can meet the global demand. We're just going to produce whatever we can, and then we're going to sell it at whatever price.
In other words, they are also afraid of depleting their own outputs.
Could be.
Yeah. But now, look, the issue, while we are still there, the Americans were trying to find means to substitute the Russian because now the Russians seems to be they are in sanctions. They are under sanctions. So
Yeah.
how are those sanctions affecting your import of oil or the import of oil in Namibia? Do you still buy from Russia as we speak since February 24th?
With Russia, it's because if Russia says they're going to put a hold on production or they're going to produce less than what they have been producing, then obviously it will have some sort of effect on us. The wholesalers, I don't have the sheet in terms of where exactly we got, even for this month, where we got it from. All I know is that we buy from. See, look, what these producers do, OPEC produces. So whatever they produce, they put in one pot. Then they open it up, they put it on the market, and then the traders, like I said, are the ones who come in, buy from them. So there are different wholesalers, there are different traders. You find that Engine goes and maybe buys from the Saudis. Someone else might say, no, I think I've got a very good relation with Singapore. I will get from there. But coming back to the Russia issue, obviously, if they do limit their production, that means that we now need to look at wherever else we can find fuel for a cheaper price. The sanctions necessarily, it also plays a role because then again, you need to look at what's your position in the global market? Are you going to now go and trade with Russia whilst they are under sanctions? Can they trade? Because mind you, Russia, for example, is making use of a certain payment system. I think we all know about the SWIFT, and then that one got cut. But we don't have sanctions. We still open for SWIFT. But does that now mean if you go to Russia, are you able to trade with that particular payment system or not? You might go to Russia and you'll find yourself. Russia says no, we can't make use of the SWIFT. We are making use of CIPS, which is now the Chinese payment system, and so you are not registered with CIPS. Those are the challenges that come.
Okay, now I was just there was just announcement now that everything about oil in Russia needs to be bought using ruble. Did that reach your ministry yet?
No, unfortunately or fortunately not. All I know and all I'm aware of is that Russia perhaps is looking at trading their fuel at whatever currency they feel or see fit. We've just, I think one of the latest developments is that Russia has, sold fuel to India, lots and lots of it in rupees.
In rupee, yeah.
And that changes the entire spectrum.
Yeah, there was an agreement. At least I think it was last week or so when they said it was a ruba rupee kind of exchange. I think today they announced that people have to open accounts in ruble. Now, where's coming to that? Would you, as a country or as a ministry, opt to open an account in ruble should the Russian oil be cheaper than all other suppliers?
Yeah, look, I mean, I can't necessarily prematurely say yes, we're going to do it, but obviously, if you are sitting in a sane position and you want to make an informed decision, you would definitely look at where it is easy for you. Easy in terms of the pocket, obviously. Easy in terms of the nature of the contract that you're going to enter into. For example, if Russia now says, "Look, we are opening up ourselves. You can buy fuel at whatever currency you see fit, one that is comfortable to you," and also secondly, if they say, "Look, you don't need to pay upfront, or you don't need to pay on cash. You can pay either in installment, or you can just give us some sort of bank guarantee, or whatever the case may be." I mean, these are the sort of like the pulling factors, the attracting factors that would then cause a country like ourselves, who is in a dilemma where we are, to actually say, "Look, guys, I think this is the best bet."
Okay, Simon, I'm sure you are aware of the issue of you are the custodians of whatever gas, oil here. You are aware of the discovery of oil on our shores. We don't know how much that is. But do we have hope in the future that we can one day stand on our own as far as oil is concerned?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Yeah, look, there is hope. Why? Because when you look at the history of oil and gas exploration in the country, we've never, on record, we have never gone this far. We have never gone this far. And where we are now, we are in a situation, or we're in a position where we have transitioned from your first phase of exploration or first phase of drilling into your second phase, which is now us conducting what we would call appraisal wells. That's now the well for Shell and for Total. So what they're doing in terms of appraisal is they are looking at how big is this reservoir, how deep does it go, can there be found anything there, of what grade is this fuel, if you have to now test it in the market, how much can you sell it for, is it we were saying it's a light fuel, is it a light fuel or a heavy fuel? If it's a light fuel, obviously with us it's an advantage, because then it also, the efforts for you to refine it won't be that great as opposed to, for example, the Angolan fuel, right? So in terms of hopes, yes, I think it looks quite interesting. It looks quite, we are very optimistic. We're just waiting for them for the operators to now finalize and say, look, these are the final data in terms of the appraisal, and these are the way forwards. We have signed with them a petroleum agreement, and there are also certain timelines and also certain activities within that plan, that activity plan, that they need to actually stay, true to. So we are checking, we are observing closely what is happening, and we just at their mercy basically. So once they announce and say, look, this is what we have found, then obviously we'll go into the third stage of that operation.
All right, Simon. Interestingly, because days are very very scarce to find people such as yourself. Now,
what do you mean by that?
I'm saying because of sometimes you get engaged and you want to have a conversation such as this one.
Yeah, sure.
So getting you is like, in a traditional way, somebody finding a rabbit in a bush. So let's talk a bit on this issue of them finding. Let's say they found that there is light oil.
Yeah.
And the quality thereof is good,
Mm-hmm.
and it can give big market.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a chunk do we hope to have as far as this oil is concerned?
Well, right now, in the current setup, we have through NAMCO, the government through NAMCO has at least 10%, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is at exploration stage, right?
Yeah.
So once we have, now confirmed that there is oil, and these are the program, or this is what the program looks like in terms of moving forward. Obviously now, the operator, for example, Shell or Total or Recon Africa or whoever,
Yeah.
they will then be expected to apply for a production license.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What we currently have that is under the umbrella of the exploration license.
Okay.
The petroleum, we call it the PEL, the petroleum exploration license. And then when we have to go into production, they would then need to come to the ministry and apply formally, just like any other, to apply for what we call a production license. That production license obviously will have also a different setup.
Yeah.
So
in different agreement.
Yes. So obviously then there could be room for us to renegotiate. Yeah.
Simon, I'm going to ask you to just hold your. We still have a long way to go.
No worries.
We are just going for a short break.
Okay.
And then we'll continue.
Sure.
Right. We are going for a short break. We'll continue, and don't forget that we will also have Mr. Henk Saisai from here in just for 15 minutes, and then from there we'll continue with Mr. Simon Andreas. We have him today. We have a long way to go with him as far as the oil is concerned. Let's go for a short break. We'll be right back.
What is your take?
To our valued listeners and all Namibians,
Celebrate your culture with Culture Collection. Visit culturecollection.com.na and submit your quote of what culture means to you to stand a chance for your unique quote to be featured on artwork across Namibia. Culture Collection. Celebrate your culture.
Speak your mind while respecting the opinions of others.
But how can you say Namibia was brought on a silver platter when so many people were massacred?
No. That's not what I mean. I mean on the silver platter.
In terms of the infrastructure.
Of the infrastructure. You know, there were schools, there were roads, there were...
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
To grab that victory against Ivory Coast will be a big one for us. It will be the first.
For social position to raise a child. What does that mean? Baby dumping.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
The commander say hold fire, they hold fire. When the commander says fire, they fire. You know, they are trained to kill. We are trained to arrest people and bring them before court.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
That's why some of us wear unbranded clothes. Because it's about selling their product.
So talk on Eagle FM. Eagle FM, the eye. Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud. So
Not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past, and it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Secretary General of the Namibia Bus and Taxi Association.
All right. We are going to have another paid-up interview with Mr. Henk Saisai, and he's coming in. I will introduce him properly when he comes in. We are going to talk about the issue of farming just a bit on this interview. But we will continue with the interview there with we'll continue with this one with Mr. Simon Andreas. So he's a technical advisor on crops and poultry at Agri Advisory Services Division. And right. Let's just go for a short break again while we just, of course, fix everything in order.
To our valued listeners and all Namibians, we are living in unprecedented times which have seen some extraordinary steps being taken. some of which have suspended the most basic of human rights.
And this is because for the first time ever since our country won its independence, we have been hit by a dangerous virus, which is a threat to our livelihoods, the COVID-19.
The situation calls for us not to panic, but to work together and eradicate the spread of the virus. At Eagle FM, we urge you to always wash your hands with soap or use hand sanitizers.
Limit or avoid travel and respect our laws and obey authority.
We have the answer, and we will fight this the Namibian way. As Namibians, together as one Namibia, one nation. Let's stand together against COVID-19.
All right. We are again joined by today's a gentleman's show. Today's a gentleman's show. We are joined by Mr. Henk Saisai from, like I said, he's around here. He's from Agri Advisory Service Division. He's an expert in crops and poultry. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir, friends. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you, sir?
I can't complain. I can't complain.
Good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. We just want you to take us through. We are talking about the importance of succession planning in farming, and just give us take us through what is an overview of farming in Namibia.
Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Henk Saisai. I'm the Technical Advisor for Crops and Poultry within Agribank's Agri Advisory Services Division. So I'm going to take you through the overview of farming in Namibia. As my colleague yesterday illustrated, he spoke about farming in general, what are the considerations in farming. Today I'm going to talk to you about farming as a whole and as a business in Namibia. As we all know, agriculture is a backbone for most developed economies, and farming is something that has been done for many years. So in Namibia, we have communal farming and commercial farming. And under both systems of farming, we have three main enterprises, where we have the livestock enterprises, which is comprised of cattle farming, sheep farming, goat farming, and pig farming. And then we have the crop sector or crop farming enterprise, where people farm to produce cereal crops such as maize, mahangu, sorghum, and other grains that are milled into staple food. And then we have the fruit sector, and we have the horticulture sector, which is comprised of vegetable production and ornamental plants production. Last but not least, we do have the poultry farming enterprise, where people keep chickens, they keep ducks, they keep geese, and all other forms of birds that they keep to produce eggs and meat. So that is, in short, the overview of the agricultural sector in Namibia. Just to add a bit, farming, if you look at it from a communal point of view, you have subsistence farming, which focuses on the production of household food, and you have the other part of communal farming, which is market-oriented. So market-oriented farming is an approach of farming whereby you do farming to produce a product that you sell in order to generate an income. And then with the commercial farming sector, the focus is primarily on market-oriented production, whereby anything that you produce as a farmer, you have to market it to an end user of that product, and in exchange, you generate an income which sustains your livelihood. So in short, that is what I have to say on the overview of farming in Namibia.
And what is a succession plan?
Okay, succession planning, this is a strategy that businesses implement to ensure that the current leaders of that business can easily be replaced by newcomers who understand the dynamics of how to run that specific business. So if you look at it from a commercial farming point of view, the white farmers or the fully established commercial farmers, they have been using this strategy to pass on the farming business from one generation to the next generation. So in short, it's just a process whereby you, as the owner of the business, you ensure that the people who are doing farming with you, they understand that this is the crucial aspect of the farm, which is the inputs that you need to use to produce something, and then they view that farm as a business and they can use it to
Yeah.
sustain their livelihoods.
Yeah. Now, how does one set up a succession planning?
Okay.
Or a succession plan rather.
Okay, setting up a succession plan is very easy, especially in the farming sphere. First and foremost, it has to start from a tender age. As a parent who is involved in farming, you have to identify someone who is passionate about farming. And then once you have identified a passionate successor, that specific successor must be taught all the basic aspects of farm operations, the crucial assets that you use to produce, and then you must teach them how to access the markets. Once they understand all the components that they need to use, they can easily run that business in the case where you decide to retire or untimely die. So that is one way you can sustain your farming business.
Okay. Excuse me. What are the benefits of succession planning in farming?
Okay. The benefits, like I said earlier on when I introduced the topics, are it is something that can be used to validate a farming business to be something that you can pass on from one generation to the next generation. So it transforms your farming business into a generational enterprise that gives you a livelihood that makes money for you, and in the sense ends up supporting your livelihood. And like I mentioned, the commercial farmers in Namibia, they have implemented this strategy for some generations, and it has worked out very well.
What more do you have to tell our listeners as we come to an end of this interview?
Okay, this short interview will highlight crucial aspects, and I'll repeat myself by saying that farming should be viewed as a business, like my colleague elaborated yesterday, Mr. Erastus Ngaruka, who is the technical advisor for livestock and rangeland management. You must view farming as a business, and you must always understand farming from a point of a business. And once you view farming as a business, you can easily implement strategies like succession planning, and you can even go ahead and borrow money with a plan to say, should anything happen to me, the next person in line or the person in charge after I die or maybe I retire will understand the liabilities that I still have to I'm obliged to pay, so they can also take over some of these functions that you were supposed to or meet in terms of payments and maybe creditors and all these crucial things that make farming an interesting venture.
All right. Mr. Henk, thank you very much for taking your time and coming through to Eagle FM and giving such vital information. We hope to see you soon again.
Thank you so much for having me. And for the farmers out there, if you want to follow AgriBank, please feel free to be advised that we do have social media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, where in the comfort of your own home, you can always just log in and follow the content that we have produced on these platforms. So we have talked about crop production in general, we have talked about poultry production, we have livestock production, farm infrastructure and maintenance, and we have women and youth loan scheme, which has to do with financing of agricultural products. So all these topics are available on the AgriBank of Namibia YouTube channel.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. All right. We'll go for a short break and we'll be right back.
To our valued listeners and all Namibians, we are living in unprecedented times which have seen some extraordinary steps being taken, some of which have suspended the most basic of human rights.
And this is because for the first time ever since our country won its independence, we have been hit by a dangerous virus, which is a threat to our livelihoods, the COVID-19.
The situation calls for us not to panic, but to work together and eradicate the spread of the virus. At Eagle FM, we urge you to always wash your hands with soap or use hand sanitizers,
limit or avoid travel, and respect our laws and obey authority.
We have the answer, and we will fight this the Namibian way. As Namibians, together, as one Namibia, one nation. Let's stand together against COVID-19.
Speak your mind while respecting the opinions of others.
How can you say Namibia was brought on a silver platter when so many people were
No,
massacred?
that's not what I mean. I mean on the silver platter.
In terms of the infrastructure.
Of the infrastructure. You know, there were schools, there were roads, there were...
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
To grab that victory against Ivory Coast will be a big one for us. It will be the first.
For social position to raise a child.
All right, we are back. And Mr. Simon Andreas, we are still with him. He's a spokesperson in the Ministry of Mines and Energy. One of the hottest topics that people have been talking about, one of the hottest concern. But before we get there, I think you were not done when you were explaining the issue of renegotiating a new license after then this phase is done.
No, Franz, what I was just saying is to reiterate, maybe for those who are also just tuning in now, because Franz, you asked that, what does it look like?
Yeah.
Is a 10% the only percentage we can be
Yes.
looking forward to? And I did explain in summary that we are currently at exploration stage, and under that you have the current agreement under which the 10% is. So obviously, if once they have found oil and it is proven, we are happy with the reserve, we are happy with the numbers, etc., the data looks good, then obviously, like I said, we would need to, or the operator, whether it's Shell or whether it is maybe Total, they would now be expected, as per the Act, the Petroleum Act, to apply or hold a petroleum production license and not necessarily an exploration license. That production license, like I said before, has got different terms, different conditions, and obviously that would also mean that I think there is now room for us to renegotiate the percentages. But also one thing that we need to understand is the percentages that you get are necessarily based on. Because look, first of all, let me say this: it is extremely expensive for you to run such an operation, and so the question is, if you are an investor, Mr. Franz, and you come with your millions or with your billions, are you just going to take your money and gamble it away? Because that is what this is what exploration is all about.
Yeah.
It's gambling. It's like you going to the casino, and then you're going to put in your $100 with the hope of getting something. Just hope, yes. No, so, but at the end of the day, you might walk away there with nothing. You've put in all your entire $100. You go back home with nothing. That is exactly what or how this exploration is. You come in there and then you pump in all your money with the hope of finding something. Chances are that you might find something. Chances are that you might not find anything, and it's a gamble. It's a risk. So with that, you find a situation where yourself, the government where you're operating in, you need to meet each other halfway, right? Because it's better for me as a government not to chase you away, to rather say, no, it's fine, keep the 90%, let me keep the 10%, explore and let's see what you find, right? With the hope of you finding something. When you do find something, now, for us to sit on the table and for me to give you that production license, we need to now talk a different language.
Yeah.
Right. And the good thing about them coming to explore, whether they find something or not, and even if they don't find anything, for example, it's still good because why? We get to keep the data. And the data is also value. And that data you can also either sell it or you can even use it to now build your own databases that would attract more other people that would come in and want to take further chances. So they, it's a whole. It can be both ways, So in short, when we cross over to the production stage, obviously there will be some room for us to be able to renegotiate. I can't say necessarily how much it might that might be. It all just depends on the negotiation. And also, for any operation, for any venture, if you are to hold shareholdings, a lot of the businesses you need to buy that shareholding. The question is, does Namibia have the money to buy that shareholding? Because the current one that we have is a free carry.
Mhm. Now, many people just, I think we get too excited by the word discovering oil. So, is there a difference between the discovering of oil and then the exploration?
Huge difference. Discovery basically means that you have, look, exploration is the process. Discover is the result of that exploration process.
Okay.
Yeah. So you go and explore, just like you are. Yeah. Okay. Let me not make that example. But all I'm saying is that you go and explore with the hope to discover something. Once you've discovered something, that discovery now needs to be quantified.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is where we are now. We have discovered, meaning that we now see and understand that there is a petroleum system available.
Okay.
Right? There's potential, whether it be gas, whether it be crude, or whatever the case may be. But we discovered it just from the gas is something else. Gas obviously is what we use for cooking. It is, and we know that it has been built up over millions and millions of years. The gas also, on the other hand, which is different from oil, that you can also use for not just cooking, but also for your energy and for heating, for example, what they use in Europe. But there is a difference, obviously, between crude oil and gas. But both those, whether you find them or not, you still need to add value to them by further processing them, so that they may be able to give you what you're looking for in terms of. Because you can't use gas in your car, for example. Maybe there are. I've not heard of a gas-powered car, but you can't use gas in your motor, in the engine, because it is only made specifically for petrol or diesel for fuel. So there is a difference, but those two, it has been found that we do have potentials of gas, we do have potentials of crude oil as well.
Okay.
In the country.
Now, are we not having hopes that are contradicting themselves now, because we are at the same time pulling hydrogen energy and at the same time hoping that we discover oil?
Yeah, but again, I would then ask the question: why not look at the broader spectrum? If you can if you can realize both of them, either simultaneously or why not? And we cannot just also be having our focus just on one source or on one commodity per se. I think if there are means, if there's room for us to look at both, then why not? So right now there is an interest in green hydrogen. There is an interest in oil and gas as well. So I would say, why not?
All right. Now let's get to the most burning question now before we let you go. The issue of don't you think that this price that are going higher will have a potential of pushing people towards Angola, though Angolan oil is illegal in Namibia as per the law? Many people are now saying, why don't we get Angolan oil?
Franz, that's a very interesting subject, and it's one that we cannot run away from. We need to discuss it. We need to unpack it.
Yeah.
Look, Angola, number one, maybe just for the sake of the listener, Angola is a country that produces. They are a producer entity, a country. And like I said previously, before we had the break, Angola is part of OPEC. OPEC stands for the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. They produce, and whatever they produce, they put in one pot. They decide how much to sell, at what price to sell it, and to who to sell it to. So Angola also, we know that they produce a heavy they have heavy crude oil, so they produce a heavy fuel type of, and not only that, but Angola, on the other hand, also it is understood that the fuel from Angola does not meet the standards that are to be sold in the country. Now, it becomes quite quite an interesting one, because then you ask yourself, okay, fine, if Angola is producing let's say a high sulfur content type of fuel, this is now one that has a lot of impurities, for example.
Yeah.
Because you need to understand, Namibia prescribes to international treaties and these conventions that speaks to us doing away with fuels that destroy the environment. For example, us having to decarbonize and limiting our carbon footprint, etc., etc. So once the fact that we are prescribed to those, you cannot prescribe to that, yet you are selling something else that is the opposite. So based on that, we are saying that no, Angola's fuel is not accepted here in the country, because we consider it a fuel of a more higher sulfur content as opposed to a lower sulfur content. And what I mean by that is Angola, the fuel that we import, for example, is ULP 95. That's on petrol, and diesel is 50 ppm. Previously, we used to sell 200 and also 2,000 ppm, which is particles per million. These are now when you look at the impurity levels, etc., etc. And we did away with that after we had signed those treaties, right? And so we also did away with ULP 93 for petrol. And those fuels that are brought in from Angola are basically, like I said, ones which are of a higher sulfur. So we cannot be seen, importing those fuels, because then we'll be contradicting ourselves. And not only that, but the issue of also the filling stations. If you've got an operator who's operating in the north, for example, that person is registered. They employ our local Namibian people. The money that they get circulates in our banks, in our banking systems. But the man on the street who's bringing in that illegal fuel and selling it here illegally is not, number one, he's not licensed. Number two, perhaps doesn't even pay taxes or doesn't even pay taxes. Number three, does not even employ anyone, for example. So the money that they get, it's a loss for us, right? So should we now continue having such people operating? Or should we tell them that no, these are the conditions and you need to adhere to these conditions, for example, you see. So again, there's that argument, and we were talking with another friend, and we're saying, look, if Angola is necessarily or indeed, if that fuel that's coming in from Angola is that of a high sulfur, if it is not up to it's not up to our standards, for example, then can we go back to OPEC? Can we look at what OPEC is? Because OPEC, obviously, one should understand that OPEC has got its own standards, its own requirements, for example. Obviously, OPEC also, if you are to be part of OPEC, you need to be able to produce a fuel that meets their standards. And I want to understand that those standards are that of international standards. So could also be that Angola is producing two types of fuels, one of a high sulfur, one of a low sulfur, whereas perhaps the low sulfur one is earmarked for the contribution to the OPEC pot, whereby again the one of the higher sulfur is perhaps the one that the man on the street has got access to. We don't know. So so that's now where I think it calls for the two countries to really come together and to say, look, Angola, what are you producing? If you are producing something that is acceptable to us, then yes, we can take it, right? But we need to get to that discussion, just as we need to get to the discussion of the possibilities of even setting up a refinery in future. That refinery could even be jointly owned by the two countries, for example.
Yeah, because that's the way my second question was headed to, that why don't there be an agreement to set up a joint venture, a refinery of some sort? Can be in Angola or here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, I would not sit here and say that yes, we have started talking to Angola, and this is underway, etc., etc. But I know for sure that even in today's media briefing that we had regarding the fuel price announcements, there was a mention that there are such possibilities, right? So the vision is for us to get to that stage, for us to get to a stage where we are able to discuss with Angola at that level to say, look, we need to get, or to understand, number one, what type of fuels do you guys produce? And if so, at what price can we get them from you? Are there such possibilities? And obviously, Angola need to respond to us to say, look, you guys are just a proximity. In terms of proximity, you guys are just a stone throw away. Why not? Again, on the other hand, it also doesn't mean, first of all, people need to understand, Angolan fuel is affordable because why? The Angolan government heavily subsidizes their own people from the proceeds or the revenues that they make or collect from the production of petroleum products, right? So that all those, a good number or a good percentage of what they get in terms of royalties, they pump it back to heavily subsidize their consumer. So at the end of the day, and even you need to understand that whatever Angola produces, I think a good 80% of that is not even refined in Angola. It's refined elsewhere, outside of the country, and it comes back to be resold in the country again. And when it comes back to be resold in the country, obviously, there will be a price difference. That compared to what you produce and what you sell locally. So obviously, they have the financial muscle. They can subsidize their consumers at the end of the day. And to us, even if we have to buy from Angola, there's no promise that we are going to get it for a cheaper price. Because remember, they will sell it at whatever price they agree at OPEC level.
So now, why? Okay, one will ask you now: will you, as a Ministry of Mines and Energy, subsidize the people here? Because when fuel has gone to $19 petrol and $20 diesel, that means that somebody who is having a taxi might wish for an increment of a taxi. So, what are the plans?
The plans are currently what is currently already happening. We will continue the same status quo. There's that word that we use. You just said it. You said subsidization or subsidizing. When if the term subsidizing, in my own understanding, is it basically means you don't need to pay anything. Me as government, I will pay on your behalf everything. That is subsidy. Right? Angolan government subsidizes its consumers. Like I said, everything that they make, or a good amount of it, in terms of royalties, those revenues that they generate or they get from the production of oil, and maybe even the sales of oil, is what they take some of that money and they pump it back into subsidizing their consumers. So at the end of the day, their consumers they're expected almost not to take out anything. Right? That's the Angolan side. The Namibian side, we also use the word subsidize, but I think it's wrongly used. Why? Because the Namibian government doesn't necessarily subsidize the fuel consumer. The fuel consumer subsidizes himself. Why I'm saying this is because the Namibian government has created a mechanism, right, which is called the NEF. That equalization mechanism is put in place by the government to be able to take certain amounts that are built into the fuel prices. We take those amounts, it's almost like a savings.
So
we take it.
Is that an abbreviation?
Say?
The BMF. The word that you mentioned, the mechanism.
Yeah?
Would you please say it again?
No, I was talking about, I think I said the NEF.
Yeah, NEF.
Yeah, the National Energy Fund. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, the National Energy Fund is it's a fund within the Ministry of Mines and Energy. That fund is necessarily a mechanism, or let's refer to it as a savings account. For example, for lack of a better word, that savings account is created by government so that we built in a certain fee into the fuel price, and we charge you for it. We charge the consumer for it, right? You pay for it. But that money that you pay doesn't just go anywhere. It doesn't go in the water. It goes to that NEF, the National Energy Fund account. And that account, we keep those monies every month so that when it is volatile, when the market seems uncertain, when it doesn't look good, for example, then we can then say, no, the NEF is quite healthy. We have, from this money that we've collected, we have collected an X amount. So what are the under recoveries for this month? What are the losses that we've incurred? Remember in the open, I did mention about under recoveries, the losses, right? The difference between what you've bought the fuel for example, and what your current pump price is. If there's a huge difference there, you cannot sell the fuel. You've bought it at a high price. You cannot come sell it at a lower price. You need to sell it at even a higher price than what you've bought it, because you need to get back, your monies, your profits. Now, that amount, we cannot pass it 100% over to the consumer. Therefore, the NEF or the government has come up with the NEF, where it is a savings account where you can save, almost like the FNB has got a savings pocket or thing, this pocket savings. You save by your electricity. It's the same. We take from you, we put it in a savings, so when it's volatile and it's not too good, we don't put over that entire amount. We subsidize, or you actually pay for yourself. So at the end of the day, where we find ourselves in a situation like this now, where, for example, look at a couple of months back, we've been buying fuel. The per barrel price was going at 90 something, 97, 98 US dollars per barrel. It went up after the war. It went up to 104,
Yeah.
right? Then it went up to, now it's at 100 and something, 100 and...
I think it was 120.
Yeah, 20, close to 30.
Yes.
It's a lot. Now, when that happens, at least we've got the National Energy Fund where we can say, no, there is still money. Let's continue buying, and then we can see if we can, charge them a little bit so we can be able to. It's like a revolving fund, right? Yeah. But what I need to mention is, for example, the importance of the National Energy Fund is also to ensure that we continue having a security of supply. If the National Energy Fund was not there, the question actually is, would we be in a position to bring fuel into the country? Would we be in a position to actually pay these wholesalers or pay these guys that are bringing in fuel? Because the guys that are bringing in fuel are saying, fine, you don't have, number one, you don't have, for example, the ships to bring them in. You don't have the accounts with the refineries or whatever, but I have that. So I will bring in the fuel for you. And wherever there are losses, you need to incur for those losses. You need to take care of those losses. And that is what is currently happening. So we are so lucky and fortunate to have, number one, the National Energy Fund that we can use as a mechanism to cushion the fuel consumer. If that was not there, I'm telling you, this entire price, where we have under recoveries, those under recoveries would have to be passed over entirely onto the consumer.
All right. The last question is to say, maybe I'll put them two of them. One is that Valvis Bay and at least the cost are always a bit, whenever the fuel increase, they go lower. That's another one question. Why is that? Why is fuel in the cost different? The price and the cost different from us here who are inside here? That's a question from the listeners. And the other one, the question B, is that, is it true that fuel from Angola can damage car engines? That high sulfur. What's the danger of high sulfur?
Let me start with the last one. Is it true whether Angolan fuel could really damage your vehicle or your engine? Look, there is a level of truth. There is a level of truth.
Okay.
Why? Because you need to understand that a lot of these vehicles that are now being produced, their engines only perhaps allow, or they can only take up a fuel which is of a lower sulfur.
Okay.
And then should you mix, a fuel there that has a higher sulfur, chances are that your engine could seize. Chances are that your plugs would not work properly. Chances are that maybe you might, your car might be smoking, because the engine itself, and when you look at the fuel that has a high sulfur, they're not compatible. They're not speaking to each other. Maybe the engine has to work now twice as hard to just process this heavy fuel that has got a lot of impurities, for example. Whereas when you buy the car, there are even, if you're an expert on engines and whatnot, they might even tell you that, no, this car can only take this type of fuel. So on that question, there have been some people saying that, no, their car actually got damaged by that fuel. Then you've got some other people that are saying, no, I've been using this diesel for how long?
Yeah.
Especially the ones that are selling it, that are buying it illegally. In fact, today I had a discussion with someone who they are in the transporting business, in the logistics business, and he has got a number of trucks which they go into Angola, they go into Zambia, taking goods that side and coming back. So even when they go into Angola, because this is diesel, they go into Angola and then they fuel up that side.
Yeah.
Expected of them to fill up that side, because if they come through, they might not even make it up to the border on the other side.
Yes.
So he's been saying, look, Andreas, I've been using this diesel from Angola for the longest time, and my engine is fine. So again, that's an account of another person from a diesel perspective. But from a petrol perspective, we've had a number of people who actually complain and say, no, my engine has been damaged. Maybe because these newer cars, these newer engines are not compatible with, the fuel that has a higher sulfur content because of the many impurities. The second question, or the first question that you asked was, why is the fuel in Valfus considered to be cheaper when you look at the pump price compared to the ones inland? It's true, and that's a fact. But all that is made up by the logistical costs, right? Okay. So whoever is bringing this fuel from Valfus and transporting it to all these other regions across the country, they will charge you for it. They're going to say, look, Oshakati from Valfus is what, 7
Almost
plus minus, yeah.
kilometers.
So I'm going to charge you for it. It's his tires that he needs to cater for, the wear and tear. He has got maybe his employees that he needs to pay, for example. There's the fuel component as well. Yeah. There's the mileage that the engine is actually also, there's the mileage which is building up on the engine. So all these things, the transporter would build into that price and say, look, this is how much I'm charging you. So it just makes sense for the fuel which is a bit more further away to cost a little bit more than the fuel which is at the landing port. The other thing is, what we've also then done to make sure that the guy that's sitting in the furthest place from the port doesn't get to pay necessarily outrageous amounts. Why? Because it's better we put in place what we call depot stations. So we've just declared recently, I think, Ondangwa as also a depot. Grootfontein is also one. So which means that if you have to bring fuel from Valfus and you have to take it now to either Ondangwa or to Grootfontein, from Grootfontein moving forward, Rundu, Katima, Divundu, all these other places, they will pay the same amount in terms of pump, which is sold at Grootfontein.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Simon Andreas, I have to let you go now, but we will of course have you more, because this will keep coming.
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
But thank you very much for being with us this time.
Mm-hmm.
And we have almost a lengthy discussion, but next time I'm not going to let you go until the end of the show.
Yeah.
But because of other commitments, of course, I will have to allow you to go and attend to equally important issues.
Thank you, Mr. Franz.
Thank you very much. And let's go for a short break while I see my guest off, and then we'll be back.
Thank you.
What is your take?
Let all of us sit around the
To
table.
our valued listeners and all Namibians, we are living in unprecedented times which have seen some extraordinary steps being taken, some of which have suspended the most basic of human rights.
And this is because for the first time ever since our country won its independence, we have been hit by a dangerous virus, which is a threat to our livelihoods, the COVID-19.
The situation calls for us not to panic, but to work together and eradicate the spread of the virus. At Eagle FM, we urge you to always wash your hands with soap or use hand sanitizers,
limit or avoid travel, and respect our laws and obey authority.
We have the answer, and we will fight this the Namibian way. As Namibians, together, as one Namibia, one nation. Let's stand together against COVID-19.
Speak your mind while respecting the opinions of others.
But how can you say Namibia was brought on a silver platter when so many people were massacred?
No, that's not what I mean. I mean on the silver platter.
In terms of the infrastructure.
Of the infrastructure. You know, there were schools, there were roads, there were...
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
To grab that victory against Ivory Coast will be a big one for us. It will be the first.
For social position to raise a child. What does that mean? Baby dumping.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
The commanders say hold fire, they hold fire. When the commander says fire, they fire. You know, they are trained to kill. We are trained to arrest people and bring them before court.
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
That's why some of us wear unbranded clothes. Because it's about selling their product.
So talk on Eagle FM. Eagle FM, the eye. Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal.
At my age, you start appreciating things you might have taken for granted before, like good health. I've known...
Eagle FM lets you express your constitutional rights of freedom of expression without fear of favor.
This is actually, to put it mildly, an economic scandal.
Fraud.
Not fraud, it's a scandal. Why do you give a tender to somebody who does not have capacity to build? Why should you do that? You know a person that does not have the capacity to build.
Eagle FM lets you talk.
That's why I'm always telling people in Parliament, let me not take up my Katatura manners.
Right.
Because I grew up in Katatura. And I will not hesitate to tell you off if it is needed to do.
Be part of the debate by setting the agenda.
My response in terms of Rwanda at 6% is that we had been there before. We've had 6% growth before. It's not something that Namibia has not achieved in the past. And it's not something that Namibia will not be able to achieve in the future.
Eagle FM, the eye.
Secretary General of the Namibia Bus and Taxi Association, Pendapala Nakasingo.
To our valued listeners and all Namibians, we are living in unprecedented times which have seen some extraordinary steps being taken, some of which have suspended the most basic of human rights.
And this is because for the first time ever since our country won its independence, we have been hit by a dangerous virus, which is a threat to our livelihoods, the COVID-19.
The situation calls for us not to panic, but to work together and eradicate the spread of the virus. At Eagle FM, we urge you to always wash your hands with soap or use hand sanitizers,
limit or avoid travel, and respect our laws and obey authority.
We have the answer, and we will fight this the Namibian way. As Namibians, together, as one Namibia, one nation. Let's stand together against COVID-19.
At my age, you start appreciating things you might have taken for granted before, like good health. I've known from early on that donating blood regularly was indeed good for my health. I'm too old now, but I've done my part in saving hundreds of lives while benefiting my own. You see, my risk of a heart attack, stroke, and cancer was always low because I donated blood.
Call NHP on 061 285 5400. We're about you.
Speak your mind while respecting the opinions of others.
But how can you say Namibia was brought on a silver platter when...
All right, that has been the discussion between us and Simon Andreas from the Ministry of Mines and Energy. He is a spokesperson, and because of the commitments thereof, we had to allow him to go early. But next time, we are going to keep him. We are going to keep him in here. Because we are going to have lengthy discussion on other things. But we cannot take note of your questions. If you have some more questions than the ones that we have asked, he has promised to be available. Of course, this is the home run, and we still have few minutes together. 0832888401. That's the number in studio. I just wanted to give you a bit of what Pendapala Nakathingo has said. That has been covered by my colleague. I think we should do that before I open my lines. We just get to that one, and then from there I will open my lines, because we need to understand what is the way forward as far as the taxi is concerned and bus is concerned, as far as the increase, whether they are going to increase and for how much. So let's just take a listen to also what Kanjengo will be saying.
Secretary General of the Namibia Bus and Taxi Association, Pendapala Nakathingo, says the fuel situation is becoming unbearable, and thus the union is considering a price increase for taxis and buses. Now, this marks as this morning the Ministry of Mines and Energy announced that there would be another fuel pump increase.
You know, this situation is now becoming unbearable. Therefore, at this point in time, there will be no, there will be no two-way traffic unless we have just to increase. But that increase, it will be, I'm sure that it will be severely affecting the commuters. But before the increase, we consider the increase, we have a certain alternative that we want to present to the government. Yeah, so of which we will hear what the government is going to say, because if the government couldn't make an effort on what we are going to suggest to the government, so we will left with no option but to force the government to increase, because it is too much for our taxis and bus operators. Yes, we will consider the increment for sure.
All right.
Yes.
Now, if prices have to increase for taxi fare as well as for bus fare, and we see that the taxi fare is now $13 per trip and double for depending on the location or the distance.
Yeah.
Now, at what amount would the transport union consider it to be increased?
My dear, if you see that even the Bokomo, they are saying they are going to increase their product with 20%, some are with 15%, some are with 30%. So we will see. We'll discuss it at the executive level. We'll determine according to the fuel price, because this is not only one increment. Remember that that's now for the third time, and that increase is like double increasing. Remember what that is, even like Apple. Remember what was the last time increment, plus now the one for February or January there, plus now this one for $1.95 or $2 something. That is too much. I'm telling you. So therefore, we will consider the increment accordingly.
Yes, now as you say you will consider the increment accordingly, does this mean you will also regard those that make use of the services of transport, those are the passengers in this regard? Would this decision also consider the passengers that are making use of the bus services as well as the taxi services?
Any increment that we do, we always consider the passengers. So, but what we need to take into consideration is that when we talk about the bus or taxi fare increment, it should not be only considered, when it comes to petrol increase. It must be considered that every product, every item that has increased, it is negatively affecting bus and taxi operators at the same time. Because where the president buy is where the taxi driver buy. Where the minister buys is where the taxi driver buying. So it means that whatever food price increase, it's negatively affecting the taxi and bus drivers. So including now the services, tires, any parts, the taxi drivers, this increment, bus taxi increment, it should not only be considered that the fuel increase. It must be considered in every aspect of the increment. So that's why, that's why I'm saying this particular increase, it will be determined and considered as such, because we will consider all that aspect. Because when you cannot just consider fuel, tires has increased, service parts has increased, bread or whatsoever product, food has increased, and the taxis and bus drivers, they don't receive any special treatment when they go to stores. Whenever they make services, they are being treated equally. Look at the latest tariffs. They have also increased. Look at the Road Fund Administration, the mass distance charges or the logbook. It was increased recently. And all those kind of things. And it is negatively and severely affecting the bus and taxi, operators. That's why now, even people or the traffic law enforcement, they are demanding for the public transport vehicles to be roadworthy. How can you maintain and keep the public transport or bus or taxi to be roadworthy if you don't have money to maintain it? And again, they on the road, they are faced with hefty tickets. How are they going to survive? And these are the people that are volunteering to give the services to the general public. Not even the government considering giving the grant to this particular citizens, which they provide a very, very, very important services on voluntary. Because they bought their own taxis, they bought their own buses without any government subsidy. Now when it comes to the increment, it is only being considered as fuel increment. And when we request to say we want to increase with this, they say no, the fuel increment, the fuel has just increased with so. But what we are saying is it's not only about the fuel increment. It is, the increment is considered in various things. Right? So that's why this time we will consider the increment, but such increment will be determined to the current situation on both.
But before we let you go, would you then already have a set period in which you want this price increases to be set, or this is still set up for discussion as you mentioned earlier?
No, this one is set up for discussion because we have to discuss amongst ourselves as executive. We have to consult the members in the industry, and then we have to take it to the government. Yeah, such consideration we have to take it to the government with such a fair proposal.
Now, my colleague Shidoye takes to the streets to have a conversation with the taxi drivers regarding this fuel price increase.
How do you feel about the fuel prices as a taxi driver?
Going up.
Yes, going up.
Ma'am, as a taxi driver,
And not just as a taxi driver, but for all car owners. This will hit the pocket. Fuel prices going up means taxi fares also going up. And we are all going to feel it. Me as a taxi driver, sometimes I will also have to use a taxi at some point. I will have to take a taxi to go somewhere. For example, if my car broke down or something, I will feel it. We are feeling the punch.
How does this affect your business?
All right, it's 7 minutes past. It's 7 minutes to 6. That is what we are getting there. So today, when I was reading up, I was looking. Actually, the U.S. president visited. The U.S. president visited Algeria to try to negotiate some, to do some negotiation in the supply of oil. The U.S. is up and about, like my colleague Shaw here is up and about trying to find alternatives to cut the Russian oil completely off Europe market, but that is not working. It's not working because many countries like Saudi Arabia, which is one of the leading oil producer in the world, do not want to increase their output. Most oil and petroleum producing countries do not want to put on to increase their output. And 2 hours ago, I was also listening to the Russian President Vladimir Putin saying that they are going to deal with unfriendly nations. The unfriendly nations have to pay in ruble. So if they will have to open account, and he said this is not charity, so we are not going to listen to any other negotiation. They will have to pay in ruble. So we are seeing a significant increase.
Global Parts provides quality auto replacement parts you can count on. Keep your Toyota in tip-top shape with our premium aftermarket parts. From fan belts, shocks, suspension, service parts, we've got it all. Land Cruiser parts, got it. Hilux parts, we got it too. Corolla parts, yep, we got it all. You love Toyota, so do we as we care for you. Our wide range of high-quality Toyota parts offer you quality products at affordable prices. Global Parts, global reach for best local advice and prices.
All right. So we are about to see an increase in fuel again. So a barrel that is now over approaching $130. That is $130 US. And it might climb to $150 or to $200. And what will that mean to smaller economies like ours? Do you remember? I think it was on Monday when some of you say, no, Russia issue has nothing to do with us. What does it have to do with us? What does it affect us? Do you remember that statement? Here we are with fuel increase. We could not get to what Kanjengo is saying there, but of course he will be coming into studio. But this time, let me give it to you. 083-288-401. That's a number in studio that if you want to be part of the conversation. And like I said, we will be having more conversations with men from the Mines and Energy. But should there be a question or a concern that you feel it was not raised during our discussions, of course you can bring it on and we can take note of it and present it to him. Then we can make time with him again to come and have a conversation. The issue of fuel, for example, I am with my colleague here. We all come from a place where we pay double. We all come in from a place where we pay double. That is 26 to come and 26 to go. That's $52. So if the tax is going to be $15, which is not even equivalent to $19, that is per liter in petrol and 20 per liter in diesel. So that is going to upgrade from $20 from 26 to 30. That is going to be 15 to go and 15 to come back. No, for example, it's 13. So 15 to go, which means it's double. That is going to be 30. And then that is going to be 60. So 60 per day. You pay 30 to go and 30 to come back. So that is going to be 60 per day. And by the end of 2 days, you have already 120. So that is how fuel is becoming expensive. And many people are complaining, say, why don't we use the Angolan oil? So we have heard today that the Angolan oil has the high level of sulfur. That is not the level required in Namibia. So how about setting up a refinery? That is what, of course, the countries, 2 countries are hoping for. 2 countries are hoping for a refinery. And that is, but it is not a yes or no yet. Right, it is absolutely 4 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. Okay, we have lost on that one, but you can try again. I've been talking too much, I think. Right, so what does it mean paying in ruble? That is a Russian currency. That will mean that the countries have to pay higher. They have to pay higher than the required amount. Yes.
Yes, good evening, my brother. How are you doing?
Good. Your phone is very low.
Yeah, I think now it's better. How are you doing?
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing okay, sir. Good evening to you. Yeah, I'm listening to your topic and to the, I don't know if it's the speaker of the industry ministry that you were speaking on the what you call the fuel prices and the producing of fuel and also bringing fuel from Angola that you say is not capable to be fixed to Namibia car or whatever system that Namibia are using. But I think we must understand here, if a situation comes to situation, as you are saying that you are one of the affected and you are in a stadium, how do you gonna be able to come to your office if you are not able to come to be in the studio to give the report or to give the public in the media? How will the media going to be functioned? Because you need electricity. You cannot come and talk without power. That is one of the concerns also, that all media also have to demonstrate it to see that the system is also going to be functioned without power. You will be a blackout. Number 2, if he is saying that it does not consume the media because of the way the products that they are produced in Angola, why can't then Angola inform Namibia how Namibia is supposed to buy their fuel, and then maybe perhaps get those people who are professionals can clean the oil as Namibia wanted it, so that the oil can be a little bit priced for for their own country.
Your line is cutting.
Yeah. No, let me just.
Yeah. We no longer could hear you. We no longer could hear you.
It's better. I'm trying. Just be patient with me. So what I wanted to say, just be patient with me, because the line is actually a problem, the network here.
Okay, just then go on just for a minute or so, because.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, sir. Yeah. So what I'm saying, because this is, as we are all experienced, this is not about party. It's not about president. Because what's happening now, it's like we are trying to politicalize these things and to put this blame to all presidents in Africa. My question to Africa itself, as a continent of Africa, most of these resources that have been now suspending you by most of these foreign agencies are mostly in the high authority in field. You are the owner of the Africa oil productive. Like Nigeria is one of the biggest countries in Africa. Angola itself. And then Namibia is the same. They wanted to put in.
All right. Because of your line, let me just say thank you for your contribution for now.
Okay.
We need to order them maybe from Dubai. Right, they are not rolling as before because it's a change of weather. When there is weather change, things become what we call demakar. I'm not an African speaker. I'm trying, but he said dermakar. Eagle FM. Hello.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr.
Yes, how are you?
I'm good. How are things, sir?
Good.
All right. The fuel price.
Yes.
Now, I understand they say the Angolan fuel has they say a number of sulfur in it. What is really a problem with sulfur? Because and I am speaking from experience. I have people, even Namibians. I think we had an office in one of the towns there, close to Chicago, but they had about 4 government cars that they were using. But they never fuel in Namibia. They've been fueling there. And most of the people also who go to Angola, because I know many Osimbanja speaking people who are working at the coast somewhere else, they go with their cars there, they never complain. What is really a problem?
Yeah, no, it's just like when he said that, look, there is some truth on both sides of the argument. Yeah, they are the truth. One of the truth is what you are talking about now, because there are people using the same fuel, but their cars are not damaged. But there are those who have complained that their cars were damaged by, or their car engines were damaged by Angolan oil.
Like seriously, which one is that? Is now the diesel one or petrol one?
There was no. He didn't provide much details on it, but the way is according to him, because he's a spokesperson in the Ministry of Mines and Energy, which are the custodian, which is the custodians of as far as fuel is concerned. So I think have been some complaint.
I have a bit of experience also because I'm somehow in that sector, but I don't think you will find any data proving that some car had been damaged. remember, the standard we have is not ours, it's the South African one. Yeah? So, but the standard is just set by somebody. But for him, even you can go back to him and ask him whether he can provide you with that data supporting what he's saying. It doesn't exist. So, but we understand that, we have also people who are in that sector here. So there are some kind of protection there. But that one we understand. But if you say there is some car damage, I don't think you find any data proving that. Okay.
All right.
That is me. The tax increase. I'm not so sure whether there is some format there. For example, if the liter is now about 19, 20, if they go up to 15 or 16, now what will be the factor there? Because I mean, you could have been probably say, okay, you cannot go increase up to the price per liter, because that will probably be also it's not justice. Is there any factor to say, okay, at least if the liter is now 19, if you are within 13, 14, you are fine, because a car normally is paying about 9, 10 per 100 meter, per 100 kilos. What would be the factor there to justify that what they're asking is really making sense?
Yeah, but one would also ask what should make sense, because does it make sense to charge people $15 as a taxi operator when your liter costs you 19? So what type of business is that?
Yes, there are some justice to it, because remember, we are already having logistical sector here that actually already living per kilo, especially the tracking and all those. Even the normal, for example, the mines, if they recruit you to convey their employees, there are some factor to that. But you cannot just look at the price per liter. No, that will not be justice. I don't know how they use it, but the way they really go on about it, I don't think they really have any basis why they want to get there. Because they are just looking at the price per liter, but that you cannot really do that. So I understand when they say, okay, tires and whatever, but then I don't know who's the right person now. I'm just saying that because what I've been listening, you are just interviewing the drivers, and some of the drivers actually also get petrol money. It depends how they have agreement with the owner. And when he said tires now, like, okay, is he really one who buy tires or the owner?
Maybe he's talking from a point of a taxi driver and an owner at the same time. Yeah, maybe he has that. Maybe he's speaking from both experience as a taxi driver and as an owner. Maybe he's the one that owns the car that he drives. So he's an owner and a taxi driver at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I like the other guy who was saying, look, it's about both sides. Of course, as a taxi driver, I also feel that. But then I must also remember that the person who's paying, the commuter, is also paying, because we have a story of people are not being increased, and now the economy is actually beating all of us. Now, if you just want money, you might increase, but you're really going to find people who are willing to pay that. It's not that they are not willing, but unable to pay that. And now when you do that, you must also look at both sides. Like he said, today I'm driving, tomorrow I'll take a taxi as well. So looking at those things, because many people really, sure, it's not easy. You have to pay, but
yes. All right, thank you very much.
All right, people.
Right. We can do the same. 083-288-401. That's the number in studio if you want to be part of the conversation here. We are still having close to 13 minutes before the show comes to an end. We can still accommodate you. Eagle FM?
Hey, Mr. Franz.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Fine. Yeah, Angolan oil could be option for the Namibia now at this moment. We are traveling to our village to go and calculate our mahangos, and we travel on those calefas. But the increase of oil, it is damage very much to us. But Namibian government and the Angolan government, why are they not coming together and sign any agreement for the local? And those who are in Windhoek, Swakop and whatever, they go to service. But those who are in this site, let us be given a green light to take it, to have that oil. That is only the option. Somebody who said the oil is breaking his car, I don't think there is any truth in it. Maybe, but I'm not sure.
If somebody says the car, it's not your car, it's their car. So how do you come to say there is no truth? When somebody is talking about, is concerned about what happened to their car.
I know Namibian government, the cars, the police cars who are at the border, they're using those oils. But they still stand. No, maybe his car is having another problem, not the oil. The problem is not oil. The problem is in his car. He should take the car to the repair so that they look in it. It's not the oil. I'm very 100% sure that
unless you want to say that you were also present when the car was diagnosed.
Yeah, but why only his car? But there's many cars who feeling this. Sorry. Feeling those oil, but they still going.
Yeah, Nashila, the thing is, there is truth from both sides.
There is
the truth of the matter is, there are cars that are taking Angolan oil and they are not damaged. And then there might be some cars that were damaged by the same oil.
Maybe.
So to say that there is no truth in that one, I think you are a bit out.
Because I have witnessed many cars who are using those, including the government officials. They use that. When they travel to Unziva, they put that oil. But they are in a good condition. They are in good condition. They think it is only politics of those Europeans. They wanted us to use their oil. They say our oil is damaging the urea of the event. But that is not true. They just wanted us to use those oils. It's not true. We must not just concentrate to those people anymore. We should do our things. Angola is having oil. We should use that. But they wanted to give us cars And again, they wanted to give us oil while we had our oil here in Africa. No, it is not good. It's not acceptable to us. They put a burden on us. When we travel, we pay more now.
All right,
It is
Mashina,
not
thank you very
good.
much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Right. So, yes, I'm not a mechanic. Not a car mechanic. I don't know how much damage can the sulfur, that is the component that is in Angolan oil, could bring to the car. But there have been talks at that level, and that's why I asked the man, the spokesperson in the Ministry of Energy, that question. Eagle FM?
Yes, Mr. Frank.
Yes.
I don't have much to say,
Mm-hmm.
but this issue of economic crisis where we find ourselves, not only in Namibia, but I think everywhere in Africa and outside of Africa.
No, I was checking even in America, they are complaining about fuel prices.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that this economic crisis is going to hit us much more dangerous than other countries of the world, because we don't do things of our own. That's why even those who say that that time when the war started, there are some people who say that war is far from us. It has nothing to do with Namibia. Maybe now their eyes are now open. They see everything that we follow other civilization. We don't do anything. We can't be able to stand alone. If we stand alone, we follow other country of the world, then we can't stand. We can't be balanced. So my suggestion to this economic crisis, I think, why can't the cabinet sit down and they come up with an idea of reducing the salaries of people who have better salary, and we must do some kind of giving just a little of money to those who are not working. I don't know if anybody, every Namibian who is deducted by so-called social security.
I think you are mixing beans with jungle oats here. I think we need to focus on oil. The issue of salary. I mean, you are going to basic income grant. You are going to. I think we can talk about that one tomorrow.
Okay, now let me not go far, but to say the increase of fuel is hitting. There will be no bread on the table. That is something that we have to speak out there. Because when the petrol is higher, then for you to fuel your car, you have to finish what you have in the pocket, and then you go empty-handed home without having bread. And what about those who are not working? That is my question.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. No, let's not mix things. That issue of cutting salary and to give to the poor is not what we should talk about today. We will talk about it tomorrow. Right, Eagle FM?
Not what we should. Good evening, President.
Good evening.
You see, when it comes to the price increase of the oil now, the price hike, why now I see the American dollar is coming down and then the price of oil is going up. Why maybe it's like this? Just today the American dollar is getting weaker, also weaker. There you tell us about it. What money is that in Russia?
Ruble. Yes, ruble.
The ruble will take over now. But the ruble is which country is the ruble is used? that money. We need to country. The Russian money.
Yes, it's a Russian currency.
Okay.
Yeah, they want whosoever is buying oil from them, especially countries such as United States, Europe, and UK. If they are buying, they will have to use in ruble. If not, then that's it.
Means also it also sanction their dollars.
Yeah, they also retaliated and they put on their own sanction.
When we are suffering now, I think therefore the price increase in life because of those open account, they want the money, they need the price. That's because of the dollar is weakening, it's going down and then it's increasing the price of the barrel. But to us, we will suffer. We will suffer, we will suffer. Maybe what we are expecting, the Russia will do something. That money will take over the American dollar. We will find the American dollar to come to $6. It will come to that. One thing we get $6 in Namibia, American dollar to be $6. Yeah, it means we come to the world where we were before, maybe 2002, 2000 somewhere they were there. But the economy, maybe it will repeat because when the war will finish, maybe the thing will come to normal and then the war will survive. Because it will not get stronger anymore like this. They are competing with Europe in the market. People will feel it will be better when it comes to economy.
Yeah.
But now I'm expecting this dollar to go down. That's what I expect.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, we are going for a short break, and after that, I'll come and say my goodbyes. Stay tuned.
To our valued listeners and all Namibians, we are living in unprecedented times which have seen some extraordinary steps being taken, some of which have suspended the most basic of human rights. And this is because for the first time ever since our country won its independence, we have been hit by a dangerous virus, which is a threat to our livelihoods, the COVID-19. The situation calls for us not to panic, but to work together and eradicate the spread of the virus. At Eagle FM, we urge you to always wash your hands with soap or use hand sanitizers, limit or avoid travel and respect our laws and obey authority. We have the answer, and we will fight this the Namibian way. As Namibians, together as one Namibia, one nation. Let's stand together against COVID-19.
Speak your mind while respecting the opinions of others.
How can you say Namibia was brought on a silver platter?
All right. This is the time that I have to say goodbye. And of course, hand over to Dwight Links. Dwight.
Franz, why are you saying my name full out? What's your problem?
Why do I say your name full out? Don't you have a full moon and a half moon?
Yeah. Franz, what's with the moon story now?
Don't you have a full moon? I don't know. It's your story. You guys who can see. Apparently, there is a full moon and a half moon.
Yeah, they are.
I'm like, what is that?
What?
So when is a moon full and when is it half?
When you have the moon's face is fully visible, and when it's half is when half the moon's face is covered.
So that is a full moon and a half moon.
Yeah, except for the, what do they call that thing? The crescent moon.
Yeah.
The crescent moon is something else.
I don't want to go into is that astronomy?
Well, yeah, sure, yeah, if you want to put it like that, Franz.
So yeah. Anyway, how is it day?
Oh, it's alright. Just getting amped for the business and economic zone discussion. We're still going to continue in terms of
oil. The fuel.
Well, the fuel one, but we're not done yet with the green scheme discussion.
Okay.
Because there's still a lot going on with that regard. First and foremost, that this all factors in each other. The oil or the fuel price increase is around the corner. That's 6 April. 6 April is on Wednesday next week. Yeah, Wednesday next week. And then in between, you've got the element still of giving the first option or the first opportunity still to the international community or international investors for a go at our green schemes. And we're still on that because I still have to share some of the most valuable lessons in terms of other templates from around the world where this has happened, meaning where other organizations or other nationals buy into the agro sector of a country. One of the worst examples, unfortunately, is in the US. But you also have to consider that in the US you've got commercial, full-on industrial farming. I'm not talking about I'm owning a farm and I sell my produce. No, you owning a farm and you sell your product. Not in that same sense. In the sense where you've got companies that actually operate for a commercial purpose to make a profit.
Okay. Dwight, let me, I also have an interest. I'm going to chase one story there. I think there was something interesting today in Parliament. So I'm going to see what that was. There was an order there.
No, there's a lot of arguing if you have to ask, Franz.
Yeah, no, I mean, I want to go and process it and see how far we can go with it.
No problem.
Right.